Welcome. Before we begin our journey tonight, take a moment to settle in. Adjust your pillows, let your shoulders drop, and let the weight of the day simply fade away. Tonight, we are going to leave the modern world behind. We are going to drift back through the mists of time, back to an age of iron, of golden sands, and of gods who walked among men. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let us travel to the ancient city of Babylon. The year is 323 BC. The location is the ancient sprawling city of Babylon. Imagine the heat. It is a physical weight, pressing down on the clay walls of the palace. Outside, the Euphrates River flows slowly, indifferent to the fate of men. Inside, the air is thick with the smell of incense and sickness. In the center of the royal chamber lies a bed made of gold and ivory, and on it lies a man who was once thought to be immortal. He is sweating. His skin is pale, burning with a fever that has consumed him for 10 long days. He tries to speak, but his voice, a voice that once commanded the destruction of cities, is now nothing more than a dry rattle in his throat. His generals stand around the bed. These are men of iron, men who have walked across the known world, from the snowy peaks of Greece to the jungles of India. But now, they look like frightened children. They are watching their sunset. They lean in close, desperate for one last command, one last order to give meaning to the chaos that will follow. To whom do you leave your empire, they ask. The dying man's eyes drift open one last time. He whispers a single Greek word, kratisto, to the strongest. The king dies. The silence in the room is deafening. But to understand this tragedy, to understand how a man becomes a god and how a god rots into a corpse, we must leave this dark room. We must travel back in time, back to the cold winds of the north, 33 years earlier, Macedonia. To the refined philosophers of Athens, this land was a nightmare. It was a place of rough mountains, bitter winters, and men who drank their wine undiluted. It was a kingdom of hunters and warriors. Here, King Philip II ruled with an iron fist. Philip was a man carved from scar tissue. He had lost an eye in battle, his leg was crippled by a spear, his body was a map of violence. He was practical, brutal, and brilliant. But Alexander's mother, Olympias, was a creature of a different world. She was a mystic, a priestess of the old dark gods. The servants in the palace whispered fearful stories about her. They said she did not sleep alone. They said that in her bed, winding around her arms as she slept, were great tame snakes. Imagine the childhood of young Alexander. By day, he watched his father drill soldiers in the mud. He learned the geometry of war. By night, his mother whispered secrets into his ear. She told him that on the night he was conceived, a bolt of lightning had struck her womb. She told him that Philip was merely his mortal guardian. She told him, "You are the son of Zeus. You are not of this earth." A child who believes he is a god does not know fear, and the world would soon learn this. Alexander was 12 years old when the horse dealer arrived. He brought a stallion from Thessaly, a massive creature, black as midnight, with a white mark on its forehead, like the head of an ox. His name was Bucephalus. The horse was a monster. He screamed and kicked. He would not let any man approach him. The best riders in Philip's court were thrown into the dust. King Philip, angry at the waste of time, ordered the beast to be taken away. But Alexander stood up. His voice, still high and boyish, cut through the noise. "What a horse they are losing," he shouted. just because they do not have the spirit to handle him. The king laughed. The generals mocked him. But Alexander ran to the horse. He had noticed something the adults had missed. The horse was not vicious. He was terrified. He was shying away from his own shadow, dancing on the ground. Slowly, gently, Alexander took the bridle. He turned the horse toward the sun. The shadow fell behind them. The demon on the ground vanished. Alexander stroked the animal's neck, whispering words that history has forgotten. The beast calmed down. The heavy breathing slowed. In one fluid motion, the boy vaulted onto the horse's back. He did not just ride him, he fused with him. They galloped across the plain, a blur of black and gold. When he returned, the court was silent. King Philip wept. He kissed his son and said, "My boy, you must find a kingdom big enough for your ambitions. Macedonia is too small for you." Years passed. The boy became a prince. He traveled to Corinth, a city of wealth and intellect. There, he sought out the famous philosopher Diogenes the Cynic. Diogenes was a man who had rejected everything. He lived in a large clay wine jar. He owned nothing but a wooden cup, and he threw even that away when he saw a boy drinking from his hands. Alexander found him lying in the sun, enjoying the warmth. The young prince, dressed in shining armor, surrounded by guards, stood over the beggar. His shadow fell across the philosopher's face. "I am Alexander the King," he announced. "Ask of me anything you desire, and I shall grant it. Gold, power, a palace." Diogenes squinted one eye. He looked at the most powerful young man in Greece. He waved his hand lazily and said, "Yes, I have a request. Stand a little out of my sun." The soldiers reached for their swords. How dare this beggar insult the king? But Alexander smiled. He saw a man who had conquered the world by wanting nothing from it. As they walked away, Alexander told his angry men, "If I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." It was a moment of clarity. But Alexander could never be Diogenes. He was cursed with a hunger that could never be satisfied. 336 BC, a celebration in the old capital. Music, wine, laughter. King Philip walks into the theater dressed in white. He wants to show he is loved, so he walks without guards. It is a fatal mistake. A dagger flashes in the sunlight. The king falls. The white robe turns crimson. Chaos erupts. The assassin is killed, but the era of Philip is over. Alexander is 20 years old. In a single afternoon, the boy is gone. The king is born. He moves with terrifying speed. He executes his rivals. He silences the rebellions. He burns the city of Thebes to the ground as a warning. And then he turns his eyes to the horizon, to the east, to the Persian Empire. Before we cross the water, look at his army. Alexander did not just inherit a crown, he inherited a machine, the Macedonian phalanx. Close your eyes and visualize it. 16 rows of men, packed shoulder to shoulder. They do not carry normal spears. They carry the sarissa, a pike made of cornel wood, 18 feet long, heavy, sharp. When the first 5 rows lower their sarissas, they create an impenetrable wall of iron points extending far in front of the line. It looks like a giant metallic porcupine. To walk into a phalanx is suicide. And the sound? Historians tell us that the Macedonian army marched in absolute silence. No war cries, no banging of shields, just the rhythmic, synchronized sound of thousands of boots hitting the earth. Thud, 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 and the whistling sound of the long pikes cutting through the wind. This was the hammer that Alexander would use to smash the world. Spring, 334 BC. Alexander leads 40,000 men to the Hellespont, the narrow strip of water separating Europe from Asia. He crosses in a ship. As he approaches the Asian shore, he throws a spear. It flies through the air and buries itself in the sand. He leaps onto the beach and declares, "I accept Asia as a gift from the gods." But the Persians are waiting. At the river Granicus, the local Persian governors have gathered their cavalry. They stand on the steep banks of the river, looking down at the Macedonians. Alexander does not wait. He does not plan. He attacks. He charges into the river. The water splashes, turning muddy and red. It is chaos. In the center of the fight, Alexander is spotted. He is wearing a helmet with massive white plumes. He is a target. Two Persian commanders attack him. One of them, Spithridates, rides up behind Alexander. He raises a massive battle axe. Alexander is fighting another man. He does not see it. The axe comes down. Crack! It slices through Alexander's helmet, grazing his hair. The metal shatters. Alexander is dazed. Spithridates raises the axe for a second swing. This blow will kill the king. This blow will end the story before it begins. But in that split second, a shadow moves. Black Clytus, the commander of the royal guard, swings his sword. He slices the Persian's arm off at the shoulder. The axe falls harmlessly into the water. Alexander shakes his head, clears his vision, and drives his spear into the next enemy. He survives. But the lesson is learned. He is not fighting a game. He is fighting for his life. The battle ends. The Persians flee. Alexander stands on the riverbank, water dripping from his broken helmet, looking east. The door to Asia is open, and the nightmare for Persia has just begun. Winter, 333 BC. Alexander moves deeper into Anatolia. The snow falls on the high plateaus. He arrives at the ancient city of Gordium. Here, inside an old temple, stands a simple ox cart. It looks unremarkable, but tied to its yoke is a knot made of cornel bark. It is a tangled, hardened mess. No ends are visible. It is a puzzle of pure chaos. An ancient prophecy hangs over this knot. He who unties this knot shall become the lord of all Asia. For centuries, men have tried. Wise men, strong men, patient men. They pulled, they twisted, they bled. They all failed. Alexander stands before it. The temple is silent. His generals watch, holding their breath. The air is cold. He stares at the knot. He wrestles with it for a moment, but the bark is like stone. It does not yield. If he walks away, the soldiers will think the gods have rejected him. Alexander steps back. A strange look crosses his face. "It does not matter how it is loosed," he whispers. He draws his sword. The sound of steel ringing through the stone temple makes everyone jump. He raises the blade high and brings it down. Slash! The knot is severed. The impossible puzzle falls apart in two pieces. He did not solve the problem. He destroyed it. It was a message to the world. Alexander does not play by the rules. He makes them. November 333 BC. News arrives from the south. The great king, Darius III, has finally come. He brings an army so vast that it drinks rivers dry. He brings his wife, his mother, his children, and the entire royal court. He expects to crush this young Greek like an insect. They meet at Issus. It is a narrow coastal plain. On one side, the towering mountains, on the other, the Mediterranean Sea. It is a trap. Darius has made a mistake. In this narrow space, His massive numbers mean nothing. They are cramped. They cannot maneuver. The battle begins. Alexander mounts Bucephalus. He does not look at the enemy soldiers. He looks only for one thing: the royal chariot. He spots Darius. Alexander gathers his cavalry into a wedge and charges. It is a scream of metal and fury. They cut through the Persian lines like a hot knife through wax. For a brief moment, the two kings lock eyes across the chaos. Darius, high in his golden chariot, sees the face of Alexander. He sees a hunger that is not human. Panic seizes the great king. He turns his chariot around. Darius flees. His army collapses. The slaughter is terrible. Alexander captures the Persian camp. He finds Darius's mother and wife weeping in their tent, expecting to be killed. Instead, Alexander treats them as queens. He shows them mercy. At this point in the story, he is still a chivalrous knight. The darkness has not yet consumed him. January 332 BC. Alexander controls the land, but he does not control the sea. The city of Tyre stands in his way. Tyre is an island fortress, half a mile off the coast of modern-day Lebanon. Its walls soar 150 feet into the air, rising straight out of the deep blue water. The Tyrians mock him. They stand on their walls and laugh. "You cannot walk on water, Greek boy." Alexander stands on the shore. He looks at the waves separating him from his prize. His engineers tell him it is impossible. Alexander replies, "If nature has not built a path, then I will build one." He orders the unimaginable. He orders his army to fill the sea. They begin to build a causeway, a road of stone and earth stretching out into the ocean. For 7 months, the grind continues, day and night. The Tyrians fight back with ingenuity. They send divers to cut the anchor ropes. They heat sand in great bronze cauldrons until it is red hot, then dump it on the Macedonian soldiers. The burning sand slips inside their armor, cooking them alive. The screams echo over the water. But the road grows, yard by bloody yard. The Macedonians are not just soldiers anymore. They are a force of nature. When the road finally touches the walls of Tyre, the laughter stops. Alexander leads the assault. The battering rams smash the walls. The city is taken. The slaughter is absolute. The city that defied him is wiped from the map. Alexander has proven that neither land nor sea can stop him. Late 332 BC, he moves south to Gaza. Another siege. Another governor who refuses to kneel. A man named Batis. During the fight, a catapult bolt pierces Alexander's shoulder. It goes deep. The pain is blinding. When the city finally falls, Alexander is in a foul mood. The mercy he showed at Issus is gone. He finds Batis. The man stands tall, refusing to beg. Alexander remembers his favorite poem, the Iliad. He remembers how Achilles treated his enemy, Hector. He orders Batis's ankles to be pierced. He ties ropes through them and attaches the man to the back of his chariot. And just as the sun sets over the desert, Alexander drives his horses at full speed, dragging Batis around the walls of Gaza until the man is nothing but dust and bone. The night is dying. The tyrant is waking up. Winter 332 BC. He leaves the blood of Gaza and enters the silence of Egypt. The Egyptians hate the Persians. They welcome Alexander. They crown him pharaoh. But Alexander feels a call, a pull towards the deep desert. He wants to visit the oracle of Ammon Zeus at the oasis of Siwa. It is a dangerous journey, hundreds of miles of shifting sands. a sandstorm hits the army. The trail is lost. The water runs out. Historians say that 2 ravens flew in front of the army, cawing to guide them to the oasis. Others say a miraculous rain fell from a clear sky. Finally, they see the palm trees of Siwa. Alexander enters the temple alone. The high priest comes out to greet him. Now listen closely. This is the moment the world changes. The priest, an old Egyptian, trying to speak Greek, intends to say, "O my son, Paidion," but he stumbles over the foreign words. Instead he says, "O Son of God, Paidios." Alexander freezes. He does not correct the priest. He accepts it. He asks the oracle, "Have I punished all the murderers of my father?" The oracle replies, "Be careful. Your father is not a mortal. You are the son of the ram god Ammon." When Alexander walks out of that temple, the transition is complete. The boy from Macedonia is dead. The god stands in the sunlight. He looks east, towards the heart of Asia, towards the final battle. And he knows, with terrifying certainty, that nothing can kill him. October 331 BC. The final showdown. Alexander marches into the heart of Mesopotamia, near the ruins of ancient Nineveh. The place is called Gaugamela, the house of the camel. Darius III has learned from his mistakes. He has chosen a vast open plain. He has ordered his men to clear away every rock and bush. He wants a flat dance floor for his killers. He has gathered the largest army the world has ever seen. Some historians say 250,000 men. It is an ocean of spears stretching as far as the eye can see. And he brings a new weapon, scythed chariots, wheels fitted with razor-sharp blades, designed to spin and cut the legs off horses and men like wheat at harvest. The night before the battle, the sky turns dark. The moon bleeds into a deep red, a lunar eclipse. The Persian camp is in panic. They see it as an omen of death. But in the Macedonian tent, silence reigns. His generals come to wake Alexander at dawn. They find him fast asleep. Parmenio, his oldest general, shakes him. "How can you sleep? The weight of the world is outside your tent." Alexander opens his eyes, rested and calm. "I sleep," he says, "because the chase is over. Today, we win." The battle begins in a storm of dust. The noise is indescribable, the screaming of the chariots, the thunder of hooves. Darius sends his scythed chariots charging forward. But the Macedonians are disciplined. As the deadly machines approach, the soldiers simply step aside. They open lanes in their formation. The chariots pass harmlessly through the gaps, and the horses are killed from behind. Then Alexander sees it, a gap in the Persian line, a momentary weakness. He does not hesitate. He forms his companion cavalry into a giant wedge, a triangular spear point of horse and man. Alexander rides at the tip of the spear. With a primal scream, they drive straight into the gap, aiming directly for the king. It is a sledgehammer striking glass. The Persian line shatters. For the second time, Darius looks into the eyes of Alexander. And for the second time, the King of Kings turns his chariot and runs. The leader is gone. The army dissolves. The dust settles on a new world order. The Persian Empire, which stood for 200 years, is dead. Alexander marches into Babylon. He walks through the Ishtar Gate. He is showered with flowers. He moves to Susa, capturing more gold than exists in all of Greece. But he wants the heart. He wants Persepolis, the ceremonial capital deep in the mountains of Persia. Winter 330 BC. The way is blocked. A narrow mountain pass called the Persian Gates. Here, a Persian general named Ariobarzanes makes a last heroic stand. It is the Thermopylae of the East. A few brave men holding back an army. The Macedonians try to attack, but the Persians roll massive boulders down the cliffs. Alexander is forced to retreat. For a month, he is stuck in the snow. He is furious. But like a wolf, he hunts for a weakness. He finds a local shepherd. The man knows a secret goat path through the mountains. In the dead of night, amidst a blizzard, Alexander leads a small group of elite soldiers over the icy peaks. They climb in silence, their breath freezing in the air. When the sun rises, they are behind the Persian wall. The attack is brutal. The Persians are crushed between two forces. The road to the most beautiful city on earth is open. They arrive at Persepolis. The Greeks have never seen anything like it. Columns of black marble that soar 100 feet into the air. Walls covered in gold leaf. Massive statues of bulls with human heads. The air smells of cedar wood brought all the way from Lebanon. It is the jewel of the world. Alexander enters the royal palace. He sees the golden throne of Darius under a canopy of purple silk. Alexander climbs the steps and sits on it. But he is a short man, and the throne is built for a giant. His feet do not touch the ground. They dangle like a child's. A servant quickly brings a low table for him to rest his feet on. One of the older Persians begins to weep. That table, the Persian whispers, was the favorite dining table of King Darius. And now, you put your dirty boots on it. Alexander does not care. He is the master of the house now. For months, Alexander rests in Persepolis, but idleness is dangerous for a man like him. One night in May, a great feast is held. The wine flows like a river. The soldiers are drunk, celebrating their impossible journey. Among them is a woman named Thais. She is an Athenian, a witty and beautiful courtesan. As the night grows late and the minds grow hazy, Thais stands up. She holds a golden cup. She speaks to the drunken crowd. She reminds them that the Persians burned Athens 150 years ago. She says, "It is time for revenge." "Let us light a fire," she cries. "Let us burn this palace to the ground." The crowd roars. The mob mentality takes over. Alexander, flushed with wine and the arrogance of a god, stands up. "Why not?" he laughs. They grab torches from the walls. Musicians play as they dance out of the hall. It is a procession of madness. Alexander throws the first torch. Thais throws the second. Then hundreds follow. The dry cedar wood catches fire instantly. The flames lick the gold ceilings. The tapestries turn to ash. The fire rages through the night. The smoke rises so high it can be seen for miles, a black scar against the stars. By morning, the sobering reality sets in. Alexander stands before the smoking ruins of Persepolis. The alcohol has worn off. The adrenaline is gone. He looks at the ashes of the most beautiful palace in the world, and he realizes what he has done. He is no longer just a builder of cities. He is a destroyer of civilizations. Historians say he wept that morning, but tears cannot unburn a city. The darkness has taken hold. Summer 330 BC. Persepolis is a smoking ruin behind them. Alexander pushes north. He is obsessed with one thing: capturing Darius alive. He wants the legitimacy of the crown. He wants to look the great king in the eye and grant him mercy. The chase is brutal. They ride through the Caspian gates, pushing their horses until they drop dead, drinking muddy water, sleeping in the saddle. But he is too late. Darius is not killed by Alexander. He is betrayed by his own general, a man named Bessus. Alexander finds the great king in a wagon, abandoned on a lonely road. Darius has been stabbed. He is dying alone, with only a stray dog for company. By the time Alexander dismounts and walks to the wagon, Darius is dead. Alexander looks down at the corpse of his greatest rival, the man who ruled the world. Now, just a piece of meat attracting flies. Alexander takes off his own royal cloak. With a heavy sigh, he covers the body of Darius. He hunts down the assassin, Bessus, and executes him with a cruelty that shocks even the Persians. Alexander is now the king of kings. But the crown is heavy. As they move deeper into Asia, towards modern-day Afghanistan, Alexander changes. The rough Macedonian soldier begins to fade. He starts wearing Persian robes, purple and white tunics. He wears a diadem on his head. He begins to demand that his Greek captains bow to him, kissing the floor in the Persian custom of proskinesis. His men hate it. They whisper in the tents. "We conquered these people," they say. "Why is our king acting like one of them? Has he forgotten who he is?" Paranoia begins to creep into Alexander's mind. He sees daggers in every shadow. Autumn 328 BC, Samarkand. This is the darkest night in Alexander's life. Another feast, another night of heavy, undiluted wine. The air is thick with smoke and resentment. Alexander, drunk and arrogant, begins to boast. He mocks his father, King Philip. He claims that Philip was mediocre and that all the great victories belong to him, Alexander, the son of Zeus. In the back of the room, a voice speaks up. It is Clytus the Black. Clytus is not just a general. He is family. He was the brother of Alexander's nurse, and he is the man who saved Alexander's life at the Granicus River, slicing off the arm of the Persian who was about to kill him. Clytus is old, tired, and drunk. He has had enough. He stands up and shouts, "It was Philip who built this army, and it was this hand." He raises his right hand. "This hand that saved you from death. You are not a god, Alexander. You are a man who feeds on the blood of better men." The room goes deathly silent. Alexander turns red. He throws an apple at Clytus. He looks for his sword, but a guard has hidden it. "Sound the alarm," Alexander screams. "I am being betrayed." His friends try to hold him back. They drag Clytus out of the room, but Clytus breaks free. He runs back to the doorway, pulling aside the curtain. He shouts a line from a tragedy. "Alas, what evil customs reign in Greece!" Alexander grabs a spear from a guard. In a blind, drunken fury, he hurls it. The spear flies across the room. It strikes Clytus squarely in the chest. The old soldier falls. He is dead before he hits the floor. The silence that follows is louder than any battle. Alexander runs to the body. He pulls the spear out. He sees the face of his friend. The blood on his hands is not Persian. It is Macedonian. The rage vanishes instantly, replaced by a horror so deep it breaks him. He tries to turn the spear on himself, to commit suicide right there. But his guards wrestle it away. For 3 days, the master of the world lies in his tent, sobbing, refusing food or water, screaming Clytus's name. He has conquered the world, but he has lost his soul. Time passes. The wound scars over, but it never heals. To distract himself, he turns to war again. He besieges the Sogdian Rock, a fortress high on a mountain peak, so steep that the defenders shout, "You will need soldiers with wings to catch us." Alexander laughs. He pays 300 of his best climbers to scale the sheer cliffs at night, using iron pegs. By morning, they wave flags from the peak above the fortress. "Look," Alexander says, "I have found my men with wings." The fortress surrenders. Among the captives is a girl. Her name is Roxana. The little star. Historians say she was the most beautiful woman in Asia. Alexander, the man who never cared much for romance, stops in his tracks. He falls in love. It is sudden. It is absolute. Despite the protests of his generals, who want him to marry a pure-blooded Macedonian, Alexander marries the barbarian princess. For a brief moment, there is happiness, a flicker of light in the growing darkness. But peace is boring. Alexander looks at the map. He sees a blank space to the east, India. They tell him it is a land of monsters and magic. They tell him the ocean surrounds the world just beyond it. He wants to see the ocean. He stands before his tired army, men with grey in their beards, men who just want to go home. One more conquest, he tells them. One more glory. They shoulder their spears. They follow him, because they fear him more than they fear the unknown. And so, the machine moves east, towards the edge of the world, towards the jungle and the rain. Spring, 326 BC. Alexander leads his men over the Hindu Kush mountains. They enter a world that the Greeks thought was only a myth, India. Everything here is different. The air is thick and heavy. Strange birds scream in the trees. Massive snakes slither through the grass. And then the rains begin, the monsoons. It rains for 70 days straight. Think of the misery. Armor rusts, leather rots, bowstrings snap in the humidity. The men are constantly wet, bitten by insects, tired beyond belief. They arrive at the Hydaspes River. On the other side waits King Porus. Porus is a giant of a man, standing nearly 7 feet tall, and he brings with him the tanks of the ancient world, war elephants, 200 of them. To the Greek horses, these beasts are nightmares. The smell of the elephants makes the horses panic. The trumpeting sound shakes the earth. The battle is a scene from hell. Lightning strikes the battlefield. Rain pours down. Men are trampled. But Alexander, always the tactician, finds a way. He attacks the elephants from the side, slashing at their trunks, driving them mad until they turn and trample their own army. Alexander wins. He always wins. King Porus surrenders. Alexander asks him, "How do you wish to be treated?" Porus replies, "Like a king." Alexander, impressed by his bravery, gives him back his kingdom. But the victory demands a terrible price. After the battle, Alexander's horse, the companion of his soul, Bucephalus, lies down in the mud. He is 30 years old. He has carried Alexander from the fields of Macedonia to the jungles of India. He has been wounded many times, but his heart finally gives out. Bucephalus dies in Alexander's arms. For the first time in years, the god king weeps like a child. He orders a city to be built on that spot. He names it Bucephala, a monument to a horse built at the edge of the world. He pushes on, east, always east. He stands on the banks of the Hephaestus River. He gathers his men. He points his sword toward the horizon. "One more step," he says. "The ocean is near. The end of the world is just there. Let us take it." But this time, no one cheers. There is only the sound of the rain falling on the river. The soldiers, the veterans who have marched 11,000 miles, drop their shields. They lean on their spears. They are crying. A general steps forward. "We are tired, King," he whispers. "We are rich, we are famous, but we are broken. We want to see our mothers. We want to see our children before we die. We want to go home." Alexander screams. He calls them cowards. He threatens them. He locks himself in his tent like a pouting child. But the silence of the army is louder than his voice. For 3 days, he waits. The army does not move. Finally, Alexander walks out. He looks at the gray sky. "Fine," he says, "we go back." The soldiers cheer. They cry tears of joy. They defeated every army on earth, but they were defeated by homesickness. 325 BC. The return journey is not a parade. It is a punishment. Alexander, angry at his men, chooses the hardest route home, the Gedrosian Desert. It is a place of death. The temperature soars to 120 degrees. There is no water. The sand burns through their sandals. Men drop dead while walking. If a man falls, the column does not stop. He is left to the vultures. The baggage train is lost. The women and children die. The horses are eaten. Of the 85,000 people who entered the desert, only a fraction walk out. But in this hell, one story survives. A group of scouts finds a tiny trickle of water in a dried-up ravine. They collect it in a helmet. It is muddy and brown, but it is precious. They run to Alexander. "Drink, King," they say. Alexander is parched. His lips are cracked and bleeding. He looks at the water. Then he looks at his army. Thousands of men staring at that helmet with desperate, hollow eyes. Alexander takes the helmet, and he pours the water into the sand. "It is no use," he croaks. "If I drink, it will only increase the thirst of my men. We share the thirst together." The men cheer. That spilled water gives them more strength than a river of wine. They march on. They reach the safety of Susa. They survive. But death is not finished with Alexander. Winter, 324 BC, Ecbatana. Hephaestion falls ill. Hephaestion was not just a general. He was Alexander's other half. They grew up together. They learned to fight together. Aristotle taught them together. When Alexander visited Troy, he laid a wreath on the tomb of Achilles, and Hephaestion laid one on the tomb of Patroclus. They were one soul in two bodies. During a festival, Hephaestion develops a fever. 7 days later, he is dead. When the news reaches Alexander, the king goes mad. This is not grief. This is insanity. He lies on the body for a day and a night. He executes the doctor who failed to save him. He orders the manes and tails of all the horses in the empire to be shaved. He bans music. He orders the sacred fire in the Persian temples to be extinguished, something only done when a great king dies. Alexander never recovers. The conqueror is hollowed out. He is a ghost, walking in a purple robe. June, 323 BC. We return to where we started, Babylon. After a night of heavy drinking, Alexander feels a sharp pain in his back. The fever takes him. For 10 days, he burns. The soldiers, hearing rumors that he is already dead, force their way into the palace. They do not come to revolt. They come to say goodbye. They walk past his bed in a single file line. Many of them are weeping. Alexander is too weak to speak. He can only move his eyes, acknowledging the men he led across the world. The room empties. Only the generals remain. The end is here. He takes off the royal signet ring. He presses it into the hand of Perdiccas. To whom do you leave your empire, they ask. His breath is shallow. The life fades from his eyes. Cratisto, he whispers, to the strongest. He closes his eyes, and the heart of the world stops beating. He was 32 years old. The king is gone. The empires he built will crumble. The cities he named will turn to dust. The maps will be drawn and redrawn 1,000 times. His generals will tear the world apart, fighting for his crown. His wife and son will be murdered in the shadows. The fire he lit will burn itself out. But tonight, the swords are sheathed, the shouting has faded, the desert wind has settled, the rain of India has stopped. It is time to leave the ancient world behind. Let the history fade into the mist. You are safe here. You are still. The past is a story. The future is a dream. There is only this moment. Quiet, heavy, peaceful. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breathing slow down, deep and slow. Drift away on the river of time. Good night.